So you can kind of see January through December 2020. Of course, you get down to April, May when COVID hit and things shut down. Actually, in mid-March, we had to shut down already on March 15th. And so that kind of put a damper on things actually through the end of the year. With all the restrictions that the governor implemented throughout the year, that's then kind of put a hit on our open swim especially, and even some of the classes in the lap swim that we do up there at the indoor pool. And you can see the attendance was down quite a ways, 1,800, so about 25% at the indoor pool. Like I said, a lot of things we couldn't do, even like swim lessons and things like that. Red Cross restricted group swim lessons, and even very difficult to have the private swim lessons. So you go to page 2.
So total dive, does somebody actually sit there and count people diving into the pool?
Well, when they come in the door, Rex, the guards keep a tally every day. So yes, they do. They keep a tally of how many people are coming through that door, so we know who's in the building and how many times they're using it. Okay. So yep.
Thank you.
So the next page just kind of shows some of the financials, and of course, end of year that we had, and I put this by the season. Usually revenues were down almost $5,600. Expenses were down about $6,600. We did have the indoor pool memberships at the beginning of the season starting in October of 2020, but then they didn't get to use the full season because we did close down in mid-March, where we normally stay open until early May. So we did, I sat with Jason and we gave back those people a credit which they could use toward their pool memberships this year, and you can see those listed below. We did not have as many join. The restrictions have kept some people away, just not comfortable coming into the environment up there. So we did have some the lesser number of sales as we went into the indoor pool season this year. The next page goes to the outdoor pool season. Outdoor pool season this year was dramatically changed. Because we could not open the pool until the beginning of July, we did not sell any season passes. We only sold budget passes, and we sold day passes out there. Could not have our concession stand open. So all those things that I have highlighted there, many of them we did not have this summer due to the COVID restrictions that were placed on pools. You can see total attendance was only about 4,700 people, and that was down about 60% from a normal summer that we would have out there. So that our outdoor pool season was nothing like I've ever seen here. And then of course on the following page, same then of course for your revenues and expenses out there. Revenues and expenses way down. Matter of fact, revenues were down $76,500, and your expenses were down over $57,000 out there this summer too. So we do have a few upgrades that we're doing, working with Brad Epling, that did not get done this summer due to restrictions and stuff that will be happening and are still going to be happening before we start in hopefully the summer of 2021. And then the final page there is just information about the Y. Once again, our facility was shut down for about a month and a half. The restrictions have put a damper. We have to social distance all of our equipment. We have to keep number of people attending classes down. So our swipes into the facility was down about 9,700 people, so about 30% this last year. The ones highlighted are things that we either did not or could not have then. So like spring soccer, Governor restricted all those activities, much like the high schools. We did not have spring soccer. We did not have our T-ball program, our apple tree camp, and our Y camp. Those were very limited. We had to limit numbers way down. Where in the past we've had about 45 to 50 kids a day, we could only have about 10 to 17 kids a day based upon our space that we have available for us. So summer 3-on-3, then of course with ice cream days and everything being canceled, really put a damper on that for the Y during this year. Then the bottom just kind of shows some of the membership totals that were there. We stayed about the same, and I got to say thank you to all the members and people that came into the Y that did stick with us through this time. And now we're getting into the exciting time of having the new addition and the renovation on the facility, and that's coming to a close here soon. So we're excited and hopeful for 2021. So that's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions for Todd? Nothing on the budget, what's your feeling about the renovations, how those things are coming?
It's going well, and actually this Friday is substantial completion date. So we will have substantial completion of both the addition and renovation, and by the following Friday, the 29th, I believe that is, we will have all the punch list items that are supposed to be done. So we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Staying on budget?
That you'll have to ask your city administrator about.
Yes.
Yeah, see? Yes. So.
I don't know what budget he's looking at.
Just one question, taking you back about 20 years, when I was on the park board and the Y took over the recreation program for the city. The one comment that was made at that time was that the Y would have fundraisers yearly.
Yep.
And to my knowledge, I don't think I've ever seen a fund drive from the Y.
Yep, we do an annual fund drive, Ken, and that fund drive is supported, much like what Dave said for some of his things, by individuals and businesses here in the community. Most of our fund drive goes for our scholarship program. The Y always has the philosophy that we do not turn anybody away due to their inability to pay to help them provide a service to their child or whatever. So that fund drive that we do annually goes toward helping those individuals and subsidizing those individuals that can't pay full price for their kid to participate in a program. We get great support also from United Way. So between those two items, we get probably in the $55,000 to $60,000 a year range from those from our fund drive and from United Way.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else?
Any more for?
What's the national YMCA organization saying about the upcoming year for activities?
Yeah, it is all over the place, Clark, because every state's restrictions are different. And so the organization has trimmed down tremendously. They cut, I think it was 179 staff from across the country during this last year. And so they are streamlining and they're relying more on the state alliances that we belong to handle all those things. Iowa has been ahead of the curve in being able to participate and handle all the COVID restrictions out there. There are still some states where YMCA still have not opened. So we have about 806 associations across the country, and there are still some of them that have had their doors closed since March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Todd?
All right. Thank you.
Good report. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you, Todd.
Moving on to the city administrator's report. Jason?
Okay, Todd touched on CWC. There was a punch list walkthrough yesterday afternoon. So punch list was generated. I haven't received that entire list yet, but you did mention most of that is supposed to be done by the end of the week. A final walkthrough the following week to make sure all this stuff is done. So that is finally wrapping up. Well 14 is still ongoing. They're still in the sanitary sewer installation stage. But they plug away at that. So that's really those are the two projects ongoing so far. The other thing I want to talk about is what you mentioned, Clark Ragbri.
So well 14 is a water well, right? And you just said we're working on installation of the sewer system.
Yep.
Okay. We still gotta get the water out of well 14, right?
Yep.
We haven't done that yet,
No,
right?
that's the raw water line,
Okay,
which is part of the project also.
okay. I just wanted to make
So
sure.
sanitary sewer is deeper, so they're putting that in first.
Yeah, because we don't want the sewer to break on top of the water
Yeah.
line and have a problem. I understand that. I was just totally confused by your
Yeah.
thinking that this is a water project that needs sewer.
We actually added, sanitary sewer was added later in the process of the thought of, if we're ever gonna put it in, we'll end up having to fight the water on the east side
Right.
of Lake, or we'll have to fight the raw water line on the west side of Lake, so we might as well put the sewer in now.
I remember that, but we don't have the water line in yet, right?
No.
We don't have any water out of well 14.
No.
When are we expected to get water out of well 14?
That'll be the next, I believe it's April or May, I believe is the completion date for this
21?
current project, yeah, of this year.
Okay. Sometimes I have to clarify what the.
So once that's done, then they can start that well up.
Okay.
Is that your question?
That's perfect information. That's what I need.
Okay, so, right. Yeah, there was discussion, public, was it, community
Right.
services
Right.
committee meeting. Concern about, what is the possibility and likeliness of RAGBRAI still happening this year? If you remember, they canceled last year's. So there was discussion on, where are they? Do we make a decision as a city that we don't want to be a part of it? Who makes that decision? So yes, we did leave that committee meeting thinking that we're going to bring it to council for sure. And there was talk of an action item. And then I got to thinking, well, we didn't have a council vote. We didn't have an action item to accept it. I think we can pull out of it or make a decision without having a roll call or that. I mean, we can have a consensus coming out of here. And the thinking changed after listening to, there was a statewide phone call Friday morning at 11. I sat in, Dick sat in my office and listened to it. From what I could tell of the attendance, there were members of the executive, our local executive committee on that phone call. So we listened to what Drake said. They were enthusiastic and confident that it could still happen. They're working through quite a few details with an event that size. They did say that whether this year's, if they have it, if they have the event this year, they're not expecting communities to go above and beyond what past years have had. They would expect that we would probably have a toned down event. So one example they gave is they're not expecting us to go out and get the huge bands, okay, to entertain. Keep it more local. So they're looking at things that way. They still plan on having every year they do the announcement parties. They still plan on doing that, but it's going to be virtual this year. And that is January 30th at 5. The route hasn't changed substantially, other than they had to do some adjustments because 2 communities dropped out. So they'll use the announcement party to officially announce the 2 new communities. And I think we all know who they are already because it's already been out there. And he acknowledged that too, that it's already out there, but this is the official announcement. He did say that they are basically in the same position they were last year as far as the environment with COVID and stuff. They're kind of in that, still having to plan in anticipation, but knowing that it could get scrapped, okay? So their no-go date is March 15th. That's when they will make their final decision whether or not they're going to do it or not do it. They've been working through how they handle the fear of COVID. They have considered um, possibly testing at the communities, at the events, or requiring proof of a vaccine. Okay? So that's where they stand on that. They've got a list of, another list of things that they're, all aspects of the event that they're trying to work through. They know things may have to be spread out, extra precautions put in place, but the overall tone was that they realize those things and they're trying to work through them all. I said already, they realize it may be a stripped down version this year of the event, and they're okay with that. Some of the stuff they don't know if they can control. What they can control is how many people sign up. I mean, because registration is open now. They can control that, but what they will have a hard time controlling is the numbers of people who may just show up. People show up to ride in it every day, and they don't necessarily register. They don't know how that control of that happens. But so that was the gist of. I did ask the question, because a couple. I think Clark and Steve, you both mentioned that you did receive phone calls, basically asking what your stance was, or council stance, or city stance was. Of the individuals on that executive committee that I could tell were on the phone call, nobody commented. So I commented and asked, is RAGBRAI getting any sense from other communities or any comments from other communities on a resistance really, or a fear to have the event? And according to Drake that responded, he said no. Everything's been positive.
Well, Storm Lake clearly is a negative.
Correct.
Storm Lake is clearly a negative.
Yep.
So that would be a false comment on his part.
Storm Lake is out, Sac City is in.
Right, right, correct.
And he claimed they're all on board. I mean, there was representatives from Sac City on the phone call too.
Did he mean the ones that have remained on the original or the route?
Yeah. Yeah. So they claimed they weren't getting any negatives. So I left that phone call thinking, they do have a drop dead date. So I guess we can hope as a community that they take everything into account and make a well-educated and good decision. And I think we leave it at that. But if anybody else wants to do, I mean, we can still go back to them if you want. But
Did he indicate the registration right now where it's at?
he did, but I didn't bring my full
I
package.
think it's actually up.
He did mention, and I think he did say it was up.
It's actually up, but I've had comments from a couple people that have said that, that's a little bit like people setting vacations in hopes that those vacations can happen. So those types of gauges probably aren't exactly all that accurate. Since I opened this can of worms, I'll be the one that gives my feelings on it. And I look at RAGBRAI as why does a community want it? Community wants it, I think, to make some money, but probably more to showcase their community. And if we're held at 50% opening the spigot of having main events, getting the Rolling Stones and David Gilmour here versus, Joe's Backyard Band, are we really achieving a showcase? And if you're only going to have a 50% capacity allowed, are you really gaining that which it is you're seeking? Number two, in this situation, Lamar's is in a very, very, very unique situation. We're the start. So if Ragbri says March 30th, it's a go. And Lamar's, for some reason, decides at that point, well, don't know how excited we are. All comments I've gotten have been negative, 100%. Probably a dozen have all been, don't do it, don't allow it, don't want people in our parks, don't want people coming in. Somebody in committee last week brought up a very good point. If there would be a problem 3 towns down in the middle of Ragbri, who's going to get the finger pointed at? Lamar's going to not only showcase itself, it could be very negative. So I am not in favor of Ragbri starting in our community this year. The record can clearly show. I'm not. I think it's a pipe dream to think that somehow by June 1st or July 1st or whenever it is, that this is just going to be magically gone. All indications would say it's not. Vaccines are not. Half the population doesn't trust the vaccine. Half the population isn't going to get vaccines. So if you're going to require only people walking through what gate in town that have to have proof that they've been negative or they've been vaccinated, where's these gates at? I think we're very vulnerable here. I would rather make a decision as a city, and you're right, Jason, I never really thought about it. It never came to council whether we could have it or not. I want it as bad as anybody else in this community, I just don't want it under these circumstances. And I would rather pass on a mediocre or down or bad year and get it back in 2 to 3 years when it's full strength and everything is hunky-dory than to do a mediocre event. So there's my 2 cents. And I think we, as the starting point, we owe it to Ragbri, we owe it to the state of Iowa, we owe it to our citizens to make a decision. And since you're right, the council never okayed it last time or this time, is it really our decision? Somebody has to step up and make a decision. Yes, it is our decision, whether we like it or not.
Well, there's two other communities that already made the decision. I mean, they took it upon themselves to tell Ragbri, we don't want it.
Right, so there's my 2 cents, I just wanted to get it out there.
Just as a point of clarification on the second city that is not Brad Peck is my name, I am on the executive committee. Just as a point of clarification, Storm Lake expressed some serious reservations last year early on